I have really been fascinated about the sand people of the Kalahari Desert for a long time. So much so that I decided to travel halfway around the globe from New Zealand to photograph these fascinating people. Home to the oldest desert on earth, animals and plants that have learned how to survive in this harsh yet beautiful landscape. The Kalahari is filled with mystery and secrets, known as the land of the Big Thirst, which spans over 900,000 square kilometers, covering much of Botswana, parts of South Africa and Namibia. Research reveals that the DNA from the Sand people show to be the oldest surviving human race on Earth. I traveled to a very remote part of the Kalahari in pursuit of my photographic passion to capture and share the images of the Sand people with you. Included in the video, I share my photo editing workflow using Lightroom Classic and share some of my best edited images of the Sand people. Alright, I trust you enjoyed those images and introduction to Sand People, and for the purpose of this video and free tutorial lesson, we're going to edit this video captured there in the Kalahari. So this is the raw image. Always remember to take your images in RAW if you can, and you import it into Lightroom Classic under File, Import Photos and Videos, select your file and hit Import, and then you select the development mode. So the first thing here, a couple of notes. We need some cropping to do. There's a lot of unnecessary surrounding information here that we want to really home in on this sand person holding the ostrich egg, and so we're going to need to crop. So we select the cropping tool over here, and to hold the proportions constant, we hold down the shift key and drag in to about there, drag the image like that, and I would say that is good enough, and hit edit. Always to get out of masks or any other tools, just always hit the edit tool. So with portraits, we don't want to have over sharp images, especially around the face, body parts. We need to soften it down a bit. But the first thing I generally like to do here is increase the vibrance to about 29 and the saturation to about +5. I like to warm things up. It was a very cold winter's morning in the Kalahari, but the beautiful warm sunlight coming through with the red tones of the red sand and the dry savanna just made it so special, and I'd just like to increase that temperature ever so slightly to about there. Overall, the image is quite contrasting. There's a lot of shadows, so we want to lift those shadows. We go to shadows and we move it to the white side, and with that done, we also bring down the highlights to about there. What I like to generally do next is, just for the overall clarity, we're just going to just turn it down a very slight notch to about there, and then we want to denoise the image. I do a little bit of sharpening first, and then just hit the denoise function here, and AI is going to do the denoising in Lightroom Classic. Alright, denoising has been done a good job. You can see here sort of a before and after. Alright, next what I'd like to do is actually introduce a mask, and masking tool is here, this round circle. We're going to hit mask, and what we want to do is select the subject, the actual person in the image, and AI is going to detect it, and it's done a pretty good job. Selected some of the background down here. Wouldn't worry about it too much, but if you want to, you can just subtract that, and in this instance we'll just use a small brush and just brush that away over there, just looking at the density of the brush. Push that up a bit like that. What we want to do now with the subject selected is that I still want to lift the shadows. There's still a lot of shadows, so I'm pushing it to the white side, as you can see, and then at the same instance just turn down the highlights again. I may just want to touch it up a slight, give it a bit more warmth to about there, and the overall clarity, just reduce the clarity down to -3, just to soften the image a bit up. Hit the edit tool to get out of the masks, Overall, I think the exposure is still on the dark side, so we're going to just lift the whites a bit and reduce the blacks as well, and then a slight increase on exposure and possibly just tone down the highlights a bit more. Then what I like to do is give it an outer vignette down here, the effects tab, and just darken the outer edges of the image to keep that focus really on the subject. Next thing I'd like to do is just get back to the mask, and I actually want to select the background. So we're going to create a new mask, select background, and AI is going to detect the background. It's done a good job. And what I'd like to do with the background is tone it down slightly. I actually want to bring down the overall exposure of the background just to keep that a bit more focus on the subject. And what I like to do as well is just reduce the clarity on the background a bit, soften it up, as well as reduce the textures, just to keep that overall focus on the subject. Next, we hit the edit button. We're going to go and just check the colors. So the color mixer tab here, we go down first to saturation. I really want to bring out those reds and as well as the oranges and the yellows to about there. There isn't much green or agua blues. There is maybe possibly a bit of magenta and purple. And on the luminance, remember luminance makes colors either brighter or darker. And just see what this does. You can just lift the reds ever so slightly. Here it makes quite a drastic increase, so we could just lift those colors a bit, the luminance of the orange, and just a bit of the yellows on the ostrich egg and the grass at the back. And I'd say this is about it. Just a final touch. Let's just go back to the editing tab and still want to just lift those shadows ever so slightly more, right up, and a bit of the overall exposure, and tone down the highlights, and possibly just tone down the clarity a little bit more down to about there. The net, a little bit more darker on the outer edges, just for that a little bit more atmosphere to make it a bit more dramatic. And I'd say that is done for this purpose of this exercise. Alright, I'd say that's about done. Just let's have a look at before and afters. So you want to do that, you can just select the little eye here under the basic function, and if you just, this is after, before, after, and before. Hope you found it useful. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, and I'll see you soon in the next one.